Welcome. I'm Megan Brett Hamilton, Assistant Professor at Auburn University in the Department of Communication Disorders and an ASHA Certified Speech-Language Pathologist. I'm here today because ASHA's SIG 1 invited me to serve as guest editor for this set of papers on African American English. And I gotta tell you, I'm really excited to share this topic, both for personal and professional reasons. Ever since I was a little girl, I've been fascinated by the different ways people speak. Now this fascination, it went beyond understanding that some people speak English, some people speak French, some people speak Tagalog. That part I understood. I was in awe that growing up in Maryland, I learned to say soda. But my dad, who had spent a lot of his adult years in Illinois, insisted on saying the word pop. Strange. And then I was even more curious as to why in Maryland my parents said things like, "We're going to your cousin's house." Yet when we traveled back down to South Carolina, where they were both from, they would say, "We're going to your cousin's house." Even though I may not have had the words for it as an 11-year-old, I was always in tune to how close the way we speak is tied to our identity. Working as a speech-language pathologist in Brooklyn, New York, where most of the kids on my caseload were African American and Hispanic, was a great lesson in my understanding of the correct ways of speaking. While I grew up speaking mainstream American English, often being complimented on how articulate I was, most of my kids spoke African American English. This experience challenged my perspective on what I used to think was the correct or proper way to speak. I learned very quickly, though, that when you are surrounded by a community of speakers who all speak the same way, yet different from you, that the label of incorrect can easily be reversed. And to decide that someone in their entire community is speaking correctly just because it's different from the mainstream, well, that's just a perspective we can't afford to have anymore. Thanks to some very important pioneers, inside and outside of our fields, we have come a long way in learning about African American English. However, even though scholars as well as society have been discussing African American English from as early as the late 1800s, to the Civil Rights Movement, to the Ann Arbor School District case in the late 1970s, to the Oakland school system debacle in the late 1990s, to present day, there is still so much we don't understand about this rich cultural linguistic resource called African American English. At a time when ASHA is urging speech-language pathologists to be culturally competent, it is important that we not only focus our learning on the psycholinguistic aspects of African American English, think grammar, morphology, but we need to focus on the sociolinguistic aspects as well, learning about African American English through a more cultural lens, examining areas like prosody, gestures, understanding this linguistic system as a cultural resource and as a strength. Case in point, while there are many of us who can state ASHA's position on difference versus disorder, I know this. When asked, for example, what goals you're working on for African American English speaking children, they might state the need to fix the F for TH substitution. Without context, of course, using the word fix does not show a full understanding of what a linguistic difference actually is. My identities as clinician, researcher, professor, occasional observer and contributor of SLP social media groups, and bi-dialectal African American have taught me that there is this gap between understanding the theoretical underpinnings of ASHA's views on difference versus disorder and understanding the innateness of what African American English actually is. It is my hope that this set of papers will help close that gap a little bit more so that we may all be able to look at AAE and AAE speakers from a more positive and non-comparative lens. I'm proud to say that the contributors of these papers come from multiple disciplines and all have written thoughtful papers encouraging us to see African American English as a cultural resource and to respect the identity that comes with speaking a dialect that stems from your own community. Dr. Yvette Hyder and her colleagues present the pragmatic facets of African American English, introducing us to a set of speech acts that are unique to this community. Drs. Ann H. Charity Hudley and Christine Mallison interview two SLPs and share insights from two different perspectives on what we can do to provide culturally responsive services to our African American English speaking clients. Dr. Simone Gibson and her colleague give school-based SLPs a call to action, so to speak, asking us to reconceptualize our roles in the school so that we can help alter the deficit lens often associated with African American English in educational settings. And finally, myself and my co-authors provide you with a sort of challenge on how we can refine our language we use to talk about African American English in a positive, non-comparative approach. As SLPs, we have an important role to play, not just in the lives of our African American English speaking clients, but to society at large. So, sit back, click the download button, get yourself some coffee or wine, if that's what you prefer, and enjoy SIG 1's set of papers on African American English.